In this video I'm going to show you how to change a flat tire. So like before, what we're going to do is we're going to loosen off the quick release, starting with the front wheel. So again, with those tabs, I'm just going to loosen this off here just so I can get past those tabs and just pull out the front wheel here. So we're just going to assume that this wheel is flat. So this is called a Presta valve. This is typically seen on a lot of road bikes. So to take the air out of the front tire as well as to fill the tire, you're going to have to loosen off this little threaded bit on the end here, and then what that allows me, you can hear that air coming out of the tube, so that controls the air. So if I were to tighten this in all the way, that keeps everything nice and sealed. So when you are riding, you always have to make sure that that guy is tight. So again, just loosen that off. We're going to take all the air out here. So on a lot of the Presta valves here, you're going to have a lock ring or a Presta lock ring, but you're going to have to screw this off, put this to the side here, just so you can actually take out the valve and just move this around. So what you're going to have to grab with you is the tire lever. So I do have a tire lever here right now. Sometimes you're going to have two. I've done this quite a few times, so I only really need one. Also, I've done a flat tire change with no tire levers. So with the tire lever here, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to kind of stick it underneath the bead of the tire there. So you can see the bead right there, and you're also going to have to make sure you're not actually catching on the tube itself and being careful not to push this in too far. And then what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to catch on the bead there, get a little bit of that bead out of the tire there. If need be, grab a second tire lever and just kind of work its way kind of in the side here. And then just pulling that bead off, and then just slowly working your way down on the tire itself. Slowly but surely working off, being careful not to puncture the tube if you are doing a tire change. If you have a flat tire, you don't really have to worry about it because the tube is already flat. And then once you have majority of the bead actually off on the tire itself, you're just going to stick the tire lever in here and just pull it backwards, kind of towards you, or rotate the tire away from you. And then there you go. As soon as you have one side of the bead off, what you're going to do is you're going to take the tube out. So just grabbing the tube from inside of the actual tire itself, just pulling it out all the way to the stem here, and then pulling the bead off to the side here, and then just taking the stem out there. When you have the tube out of the tire, or when you are replacing the tube itself, assuming that this is a brand new tube and that there's no air in here, what I always recommend is just inflating with a little bit of air, so making sure that this valve is open, either grabbing a floor pump or a hand pump, or a little CO2, which will go over as well. But just thread this on here. What I'm going to want to do is just put a little bit of air, so regardless of if you have. So when you have pumped air into the tube, what you're going to want to look for is just a little bit of air inside the tube, just so it maintains a little bit of its shape here. You can always take out a little bit of air. It's a little bit difficult to put in air when you are actually installing it there. So I like to close off this valve, just because when I am putting it back inside the rim itself, sometimes you might hit it on the actual rim itself, then you're going to lose a little bit of air. So I'm just going to stick the valve into here. So that little lock ring that we had before is also handy at this point. So I'm just going to reinstall this lock ring just onto the valve here. So that's just going to make it easier to pump it up in the future as well. So just installing that loose, nothing too tight. And just what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go around and then just pushing the tube inside the actual tire itself. Working my way around. One thing I'm going to notice is towards the end here, I'm starting to fold on itself here. So to avoid that, I'm actually going to let a little bit of air out. And then I'm just going to go pushing it back into the tire and just going around, making sure, feeling with my hands, making sure that there's no folds or any hard ridges inside the actual tire itself. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to work the bead back on. So starting, at the valve, going down here, just popping the bead little by little. It's very easy to do it with your hands at this stage. What you're going to notice is towards the end here, it's going to get a little bit more difficult. One thing as well is when you are pushing the bead on the actual tire itself, you're going to notice, or you're going to start encountering the tube. So one way to avoid that, obviously if I were to pinch this on, eventually I would actually pinch the tube in between the actual tire and the rim itself. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to move back or pull the bead off towards the stem itself. And then I'm going to start at the opposite end here, and then, you know, push the tube inside, work the bead, push the tube, work the bead, you know, just going slowly around. What you're going to notice is when I get towards the end here, I'm no longer fighting against the actual tube itself, just because the tube is centered on the rim instead of kind of centered on the tire. So I'm not fighting against it, I'm not creating a risk of the pinch flat. So when I get towards the end here, you know, you can do it by hand, or if you have the tire lever, very easy. Just, you know, gently kind of push it in a little bit and then just roll it. Being very careful of the tube here, and that should be enough. And then just, yeah, that last little bit, just rolling it with your fingers there, and then we should be good. And then just, you know, going around and then just pushing it on, making sure that the tire is seated on the actual rim itself.